Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review, Everton 0, Manchester City 1 at Goodison Park. I am back, obviously I wasn't here for the instant match reaction and the player ratings. Kieran kindly done the videos for us. If you haven't checked those out, please do so. Kieran absolutely smashed it, by the way, and I want to say a massive thank you to Kieran for stepping in on the channel and doing the instant match reaction and the player ratings for Saturday's game. As I'm sure a lot of you will know, I was actually away camping for the game. I was keeping up to date with it. I couldn't quite get the game up on my phone, but I've since watched the game. I've since obviously seen all of the highlights and all of the discussion points and conversations, and don't get it twisted, I am as frustrated and pissed off as everybody that was at Goodison Park on Saturday and everybody that watched from their home. As I said, massive thank you to Kieran for sitting down and taking the time out of his day to do those videos and to help us out. Kieran's a great lad. I'll leave the link to his YouTube channel in the description if you haven't already checked that out. And he had some really good opinions on the game, and as I said, I didn't watch it live, but obviously I saw all the commotion on Saturday night on Twitter and stuff regarding the handball and the decision and the clear corruption and bias from fourth official Chris Kavanagh, who by the way has done this before, against Everton at Goodison Park. He done it when Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored a perfectly good goal against Manchester United. He decided to disallow it. Why? He said that he believed that it should have been disallowed. The reality is he's a referee that's from the Manchester area, and it's not a coincidence that the last two times he's refereed games at Goodison that have involved Manchester sides, he has given ridiculously, disgracefully corrupt, biased decisions against Everton, which aren't even explainable. That decision on Saturday, and we'll get into the handball and we'll get into the importance of that situation, and we'll get into Frank Lampard's comments and how brilliantly Frank Lampard dealt with this situation on Saturday evening a little bit later on in the live stream. But I do want to say this just before we move into the review. There is absolutely, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, there is absolutely no explanation as to why that wasn't given as a penalty other than clear corruption and bias from the referee. It's as simple as that. It's absolutely as simple as that. There was no words that could have come out of Chris Kavanagh's mouth on Saturday night that would have made anybody, let alone Evertonians, by the way, pundits across the world. Mickey Richards, who's the biggest Manchester City fan in the world, even said, I don't understand it at all. Fans of every other football club, basically, there was not a sentence or an amount of words that could have come out of Chris Kavanagh's mouth on Saturday night that would have made anybody on this planet go, actually, do you know what? I see where he's coming from there. The only thing that he could have said, which would have made people go, oh, that makes sense, is if he said, I didn't want Manchester City to lose and I didn't want to give Everton an opportunity to get back into the game. It was a clear biased decision, because that's exactly what it was. That is exactly what it was. There is no explanation on this planet. And I've seen a couple of comments from people, not on our channel specifically, but on other channels on social media, saying, oh, don't be buying into this conspiracy stuff that the Premier League's corrupt and that it's, decisions are made for certain clubs and this, that and the other. It's bollocks. It's not bollocks. It's absolutely the truth. It's absolutely the truth. I sat on here a couple of years ago, and I have done multiple times since then, and I remember saying there is not a chance, there isn't one company, there isn't one organisation on this planet that is worth billions of pounds, as the Premier League is, that is left to pure sheer luck, is left to pure competition. It's nonsense. This is the WWE now. The Premier League is the WWE, and what the WWE is sports entertainment, and what the WWE is an organisation that makes things look as realistic as possible, but in reality, its storylines, its decisions are made before matches go on, and etc, and that's what the Premier League is now. There is not a chance a company with and an organisation with billions of pounds would allow their league every year to just be based off of luck. They hated it when Leicester won the title, absolutely hated it. They hated it when Manchester City broke in and destroyed their little comfy, cosy club of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United and this, that and the other. They hated it. They will not leave the league up to pure luck and fun, because it's not fair. And that decision on Saturday night proved it. And do you know what's even worse? Chris Kavanagh, the absolute fucking idiot, is refereeing another game at the weekend. And I will call him an idiot. I don't give a shit. I'd love for him to sit down in front of me and have a conversation with me now, because he's an absolute dweeb. He's an absolute idiot. And you know what's worse? he's still getting a job on Saturday. Chris Kavanagh should have been sacked on the spot, there and then. If you're that bad at doing your job that you've looked at that decision for 2 minutes, not 5 seconds. He wasn't the on-field referee. I'll cut Paul Tierney some slack. Paul Tierney should have gone over to the monitor anyway. He should have grew a set of bollocks on him as well and should have seen the decision in the first place. But Paul Tierney will say, my view was blocked and I took the advice from the VAR. Okay, that happens. Maybe he should have done a little bit more. That happens, that's fine. Chris Kavanagh looked at that for 2 minutes. And you know what he did? He looked for a reason to not give the penalty. Hence why he looked at offside. Now, if you're looking at offside, then from Richarlison, then surely you are conceding that it's a penalty. Because the only reason you would look for an offside is if it was a penalty. Because if it wasn't an handball, you wouldn't look for an offside anyway, because it wouldn't be an handball. So the offside, whether it was onside or offside, would be invalid because it's not a handball. The only reason the VAR would have gone to a check for offside was if the decision was made that it was going to be a penalty, and then, and then they looked to make sure it was onside. They looked to make sure it was onside. Chris Kavanagh shit himself because he realised it was onside and he wasn't able to spin it that way, and then just made the decision anyway. He's a disgrace. He should have been sacked, and he should never referee a game of football ever again, let alone referee the following weekend with no repercussion. Oh great, Mike Riley's come out and said sorry. That does us well, doesn't it? That's brilliant, that. You know, when you look at the Premier League table, ours says, yeah, Everton drew with Manchester City because Mike Riley's apology counts as a goal. It doesn't. As Frank Lampard said, his 3-year-old daughter could have told you that was a penalty. And as Frank Lampard quite rightly said, apologies, coming out and saying 5 minutes out. And we've seen this, we've seen this before, by the way, in the Premier League. This isn't a strictly Everton thing. We've seen this before where a decision is being made, and whether it be a penalty hasn't been given or a goal's been disallowed or whatever, and then about 6 minutes later, the board of referees or board of officials or whatever the knobheads are called have come out and said, oh yeah, we got that one wrong. You took 2 minutes to watch it, you give a bad decision, and literally 10 minutes later you're coming out and saying, oh yeah, we got that one wrong. It's nonsense. It's absolute utter nonsense. And Chris Kavanagh shouldn't be anywhere near a game of football this weekend. Not a chance. And yet he is. And yet he's had no punishment. And yet he's had no, he's had, again, we've had an apology. Oh, sorry, we got that one wrong. That'll work come the end of the season, won't we? What if we go down by a point? What if we are relegated on the basis that we needed one extra point to stay up? And that penalty against Manchester City could have gifted us that point, could have given us that point to stay in the Premier League. I'm not saying that will happen and that's an extreme scenario, but are we going to be able to go to the Premier League and say, well, hang on, they got a decision wrong and they apologise, so we should get an extra point? No, the Premier League will go, that's not how it works. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace, and it winds me up so much because people are still seemingly of this thought process that, oh, it's just referees that make bad decisions. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. I seen a video of Anthony Taylor coming out and saying a defender's mate today. Oh, we make mistakes, and there's a lot of other components that go into football games other than referees. There is, you're right. But Everton were absolutely fucking brilliant on Saturday. We were absolutely phenomenal, and we deserved more out of that game. We nullified Manchester City to very minimal chances. Yes, they had a few chances, of course they did, because they're a fantastic footballing team. They're the best footballing team in the land. They're going to have a few chances. The goal come from a scrappy mistake by the two centre-backs, and Phil Foden getting in behind and just basically, taking advantage of that. It wasn't a worldie. It wasn't a 30-yard strike. Everton didn't do anything wrong on Saturday and deserved more than what we got. And had the penalty situation had not existed, I'd be sitting here saying we just couldn't create enough. But we did create a chance. And it was taken away from us by a biased, corrupt referee. And it's as simple as that. And it's these things. When I'm sitting in Wales looking at me phone or thinking, footy's doing me head in at the minute, Everton is shite, and this, that, and the other, and all that. And then you look at stuff like that. It's those things, isn't it? I don't know whether anybody else feels like this, by the way. Anybody that's watching live or watching the YouTube videos, let me know. It's these things that make you just think, what's the point? What's the point? If we're not going to be given a fair chance, if we're not going to be given a fair opportunity, what's the point? Forget Man City winning the league. Forget Liverpool being behind them. Forget it being a big game for Manchester City. I couldn't give a shit. This was a massive game for Everton. We need to get as many points as possible. And that was a decision that could be detrimental to us come the end of the season. And the referee that has made that decision has got away with it. let's be honest, he's got away with it. Has he come out and apologised? No. Has he had to face Frank Lampard? No. Has he had to face Evertonians? No. Has he been demoted to League One or the Championship? No. Has he been fined? No. As I said, if he was the on-field referee stood in the position of Paul Tierney, I'd say it's a shocking decision, it's disgraceful. But I would understand people saying, well, hang on, it's a mistake. He had his sight blocked or whatever, it's a mistake. Chris Kavanagh watched that from about 400 different angles for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes. 2 minutes he watched that for. And decided that wasn't a penalty. On what basis? What basis? Nonsense. It's utter nonsense. He's done it before against Everton, and he should never referee at Goodison Park ever again. And I sincerely hope, and do you know what? I made up Frank Lampard, the Everton manager, because not only did he stand up for the football club in his pre-game interviews, but he clearly went into Finch Farm the next day and said to whoever is in charge of any of that sort of stuff, make sure you throw a complaint in about that dickhead, because he threw us out of a game there that we desperately needed to get something out of. And do you know, next time Chris Kavanagh is allocated the game at Goodison Park, I hope Frank Lampard turns around and says, we're not playing it. If he's the referee, we're not playing it. So get him changed now. Because he should. Because Liverpool have done it before. Sir Alex Ferguson done it for years at Man United with referees. He used to turn around to the FA and say, he's not refereeing our games. Or we're not turning up. And because the Premier League needed the money, because Man United were the big hit with all of the best players, let alone certain referees wouldn't referee Man United. And it's about time Everton started doing that. We're not doing it out of no good reason. We're not doing it because we've had a goal disallowed that was offside but only marginally offside, or we've lost the game and he's given some bad decisions. We're doing it out of a pure biased, corrupt dickhead of an official that shouldn't be anywhere near Goodison Park or anywhere near football, really. He's a disgrace. He's an absolute disgrace. And it isn't a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I know some people say, oh, it's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's there. It's light as day. It's in front of you. It's in front of you. The only thing that is stopping it from being fact is Chris Kavanagh coming out himself and saying, yeah, I wanted City to win, or yeah, I needed City to get a result or whatever. It's bright as day. It's VAR. It tells you that it's corruption. VAR tells you that it is fixed. This is like the WWE now. Certain teams win certain games because the Premier League wants certain teams to win certain games. The Premier League want the title race to stay alive. The Premier League want the title race to be, last game of the season. They don't want Man City dropping points to teams like Everton. They're not asked about Everton's fight for relegation. Don't give a shit about that. They're not asked about that. It's a disgrace. And as I said, what's even worse for me is the news you read today. Mike Riley issues apology to Everton. Great. Cheers, Mike. That means a lot, doesn't it? What fucking difference does that make? And again, absolutely massive respect and massive shout out to Frank Lampard on Saturday, because he come out and he actually he sort of pre-warned this and said, I'll get an apology, but what difference does that make? What does that give us the point? No. Does that get us the result? No. Does that give us the much needed draw we needed to build on and get out of this relegation battle? No. So I made up. Frank Lampard said what he said, and Frank Lampard has really, really settled on me over the last couple of weeks or so. He really, really has. I think he's a fantastic manager. I think he says the right things, and I think he sticks up for the football club. And I firmly do believe that the reason Everton complained about Chris Kavanagh was because I firmly believe Frank Lampard went into Finch Farm and demanded that they put a complaint in about that idiot. And I made up that he didn't pack any punches in the post-game interview either, because it's about time managers do that. I said it on Saturday night, and I'll say it again. Next season, whatever, one of two things needs to happen. Mic them up, as they do in the Australian League and in other leagues around the world. Give the referees mics, the fourth official mics, and the knobheads in Stockley Park mics. Therefore, there's nowhere to hide. Everything they say is on video, everything they say is on audio, and it's being broadcasted on the television networks and on social media and whatever. Everything they say is out there. Or make post-game interviews with referees compulsory. They're compulsory for managers, they're compulsory for players. When a manager loses 18-0, he's got to stand in front of a camera and be vilified by the media for 5 minutes and answer difficult questions. When a player makes a bad decision, he's in front of a camera getting asked all of the different questions. Why is it different for referees? Why can referees make decisions like that, get out the stadium, and then referee another game 4 or 5 days later with everybody forgetting about it? I've said before and I'll say it again, if I was that bad at my job, I would have been sacked. There are the two solutions. Mic them up and or make them do compulsory post-game interviews. Make them stand in front of a camera and let Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards, Roy Keane, Jake, whatever his name is, whoever it may be, say, do us a favour, Chris, explain to me how you come to that decision, because you've watched it. If you've got Dermot Gallagher, who was an ex-referee, coming out and saying it's a penalty. I know he said, oh, this angle makes it look a bit, but he basically said it's a penalty. The other referee, can't remember his name, the one that's on BT, he come out and said it's a penalty. Mike Riley's come out and said it's a penalty. Mark Clattenburg come out and said it's a penalty. So it's not a referees union thing. Every other referee is effectively coming out and saying it's a penalty. And I think had Paul Tierney had gone over to the monitor, he would have given a penalty. So make Chris Kavanagh sit in front of a camera and be asked, why didn't you give that as a penalty, Chris? What have you seen there that you've determined doesn't warrant a penalty? Do you know why they won't do it? Because they're shit scared. The FA and the Premier League are shit scared of letting this little secret out. Letting this little secret of Chris Kavanagh potentially saying, well, because I've been told that Man City needs to pick up as many points as possible, or this team needs to stay as far at the top of the league as possible. Or, you know, I've been told that this needs to happen or that needs to happen. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And you know what? If they've got nothing to hide, and I'll give them freedom, I will give freedom with this conspiracy, if that's what it is. I don't think it is, but I'll give them freedom. If they've got nothing to hide and there's no conspiracy, then they'll have no problem sitting in front of a camera and explaining the decisions, will they? If there's no bias behind it, if there's no corruption, then come out, Chris. If you're watching, which you won't be watching, because you're probably sitting there, I don't know, fucking eating something shite and doing something shite with your day. But if you are watching this, or this gets to you in any way, if it's not corrupt, if it's not biased, if your decision was genuine, then explain it to us. Why did you make that decision? Because if it was, then you'd have no problem explaining it. I know if I make a decision, a genuine decision that that everybody disagrees with, but I think it's genuine, I'll come out and explain it. And people might still disagree with it, but I'll come out and say, yeah, fine, I've done it because of this, that, the other. Make referees stand in front of a camera at the end of game and give a compulsory interview, or mic them up. Mic them up. Don't let them get away with fucking anything, because they're this hidden protected species at the moment who can go about doing whatever they want, making shocking decisions and doing it constantly and getting away with it. It's a disgrace. And people will go, oh yeah, but you can't just target a referee, because then, oh, what if this, that, and blah, blah, blah. Managers get targeted in the back pages of newspapers. Players get targeted in the back pages of newspapers. They're interviews. They're spoken to. They're told to put out statements. Where's Chris Kavanagh's statement explaining his decision or apologising for his decision? Why is Mike Riley doing it? Mike Riley wasn't at Stockley Park on Saturday. He wasn't the VAR official. He wasn't the on-field referee. Why is Mike Riley doing it? Where's Chris Kavanagh in all of this? Is he just gone into his house and put the earphones on and gone, blah, 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 nothing's happening, I've done nothing wrong, and he's going to turn up next week and referee another game of football? If you allow these dickheads to make disgraceful, biased decisions week in, week out without any repercussions, they're going to continue doing it. And that's why I think there's something deeper going on here. That's why I really do. Anyway, we've spoken about the penalty for a good 20 minutes there before we've even got into talking about the game. We will touch on the penalty again. And the specifics of the penalty a little bit further on into the live stream. If you are enjoying, please hit that like button. As I said, I wasn't present on Saturday at Goodison Park. I have watched the game, I've seen the highlights, I've seen all of that. Big up to Kieran for doing the videos and the content over the weekend. But in reality, this was a strange game of football, really, because not often we say this with Everton. It was a loss, but it was a loss that I think we can almost come out of with our heads held high. And I said this in the preview on Friday. I said if we're going to lose, and I was trying to be as positive as possible, but I said if we're going to lose, then at least lose in a manner that we can leave Goodison Park, or we can sort of, we can come out of it thinking, you know what, they worked hard today, they battled, they fought, they give everything, and they were unlucky. And as it is, that's exactly what happened on Saturday. And it wasn't just that we were unlucky, it was that we were robbed, effectively. So it wasn't even a case of we were just beaten by a better team. It was a case of we were beaten by a referee who didn't want the team we were playing to lose. It's as simple as that. But that was what Saturday was. We turned up, we battled, we fought, we contained Manchester City for large parts of the game. Yes, the goal come from a silly mistake from both defenders. Really, I think Mason Holgate sticks a silly foot out, and Michael Keane is flat-footed, which is a problem. I'm not going to sit here and go in on Michael Keane an awful lot, because I think for the majority of the game he was solid. I think he dealt with Manchester City's attack. Yes, they got forward. Yes, they created chances, and yes, Jordan Pickford was absolutely unbelievable, and I mean that. He was absolutely unbelievable. I think Michael Keane, for what he is, done relatively well on the weekend, as did Mason Holgate. He is flat-footed, and he shouldn't be flat-footed. At the end of the day, a top Premier League centre-half is never caught like that. But as I said, it was a proud performance. It was a performance that actually, interestingly enough, I've seen a couple of people say that could be the performance that takes us down, or that could be the result, that takes us down because of the refereeing decision, because of the VAR and all of that. And I actually was sitting here today thinking that could actually be the performance that keeps us up, because that could be the confidence these players need. It's all good when you're winning, when you beat Leeds 3-0, when you beat Brentford 4-1 and you've won a game and you're on top of the world thinking, we're boss, we're great, we're amazing. It's different when you lose and you still get a standing ovation at the end of the game. It's different when you lose and you still give absolutely everything. That could be the performance that changed things. And I know I said that after the Leeds game, and I know I said that after the Brentford game, and I know we've got a big game coming up on Thursday against Boreham Wood in the FA Cup. That'll be a good opportunity to get, hopefully, a comfortable, convincing win, and then take a bit of confidence onto another massive game. On Monday against Spurs. But that could actually be a bit of a catalyst performance. We played the best team in the country on Saturday. Undoubtedly the best team in the country, with a very, very strong side out. A team whose squad depth is sickening. Absolutely sickening. And we maintained them. Yes, we didn't have a lot of possession. Yes, in the second half, they created a lot more than us, and they were a lot more attacking. But in that first half, we had a couple of good chances. John Joe Kenny has one early on down the left-hand side, gets onto his left foot, probably just takes a bit of a heavy touch, fires it into the corner of the net. Richarlison has one, which I actually think Richie should do a little bit better with. Now, again, not going to sit here and go on too heavily in Richarlison, because ultimately, I think, again on Saturday he was excellent. His work rate, his desire, his determination, his passing as well, but his passion is just it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. But as I said, in the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the opportunity, when you're looking at the context of the game, you probably should do a little bit better with it. But as I said, we played really, really well. The midfield battled. Alam, Donny van der Beek, Doucouré were really, really solid in there, playing as a 3. First time we've seen them as a 3. Van der Beek was fantastic in there, as was Alan. Doucouré was getting about, only just come back from injury, remember. You know, as I say, the front 3 were moving about. No Dominic Calvert-Lewin through an injury. Hopefully that's not something to keep him out for a while. But you have Richarlison in there. I know Alex Iwobi was in there, who didn't perform particularly great, but his work rate, his effort, his desire was there. Anthony Gordon again was moving into good areas, had a free kick which just went wide at the post, I believe. We were having opportunities. Now, yes, Manchester City had a couple of opportunities as well, of course they did, and yes, they dominated possession, and as Frank Lampard said after the game, it was never going to be a game where we come out of it thinking we've dominated possession there, and we've had far more chances than Manchester City have. And you know, and we've not won. It was always going to be a game of, you know, they're going to have a lot of the ball, they're going to create a lot of chances, they're going to control a lot of the game, but we'd have to deal with that. And as I said, I think for 82 minutes we did deal with it, didn't we? And we let a silly goal away, and that's what happens against teams like Manchester City. You know, when you've got a side which is absolutely filled with quality, as Manchester City's is, and just filled with top player after top player, you can't have those lapses of concentration, you can't have those lapses of misjudgment, you can't have those, you know, you ultimately can't have those moments where you're caught on your heels as a footballer. You need to constantly be on your toes. You need to constantly be able to move and get about, and you know, ultimately be able to readjust your position, and Michael Keane couldn't. And when you're playing a team like Manchester City, and when you're playing a team with quality like Phil Foden and the likes, that then they will punish you. But I actually think we really made a good account of ourselves. We battled, we worked hard, we showed that desire, we showed that commitment, and we put in the type of performance that we wanted to see. As I said on Friday, if we're going to lose this game, lose it by giving absolutely everything, battling, showing that desire and showing that commitment. We didn't concede a silly early goal and lose our heads and drop our heads and then concede another 3 or 4. We stayed in the game. We stayed in the game with the best team in the country, and we made it really, really tough for them. And credit to Frank Lampard, he saw that, he obviously had a readily available midfield, available to him, and he utilised it. He played the 3 in midfield, and it worked. It worked really well. Zakore was back, moving the ball forward, working hard. Van der Beek and Alan were back in there as well. And that's what makes the refereeing decision even more frustrating, really. And I can't get it out of my head, and I don't want this whole review just to be about the refereeing decision, because, as I said, it overshadows what was it's weird to say because we lost, but what was ultimately a good Everton performance, and an Everton performance that, as I said, you don't often get a result like that, i.e. a loss at Goodison and a standing ovation at the end of the game as if we'd won. And I was watching Ped's instant match reaction on Toffee TV, and he filmed a little bit of the crowd after the game, and there was a standing ovation for the players, and you would think that we'd won the game. You would think that we'd come away with even a point or 3 points, and we hadn't. We'd lost, and that was because the fans understood that not only have we lost to an absolutely fantastic team there, but we've done it working hard, we've done it battling, we've done it giving absolutely everything, and we've done it off the back of an absolutely shocking refereeing decision, and without actually a fair chance of getting back in the game when we should have had a fair chance of getting back in the game. So it was a really proud performance, and it was a really sort of proud game of football to watch from an Evertonian's point of view. And that's where the sort of bittersweetness comes in, I suppose, because if we were, I don't know, let's say 14, 13, 12, something like that, and this game had happened, you'd look at it and go, it's one defeat. We've lost at home to Manchester City. They're probably going to go on and win the league, or they'll be in and around there anyway. They're a fantastic team. We worked hard. We were robbed by the referee. We've lost. It's not the end of the day. You move on. And I know a lot of Evertonians are sort of be thinking like that now, and I'm trying to think like that. I'm trying to think, not the end of the world. We lost to a really good team. We move on. But the reality of the situation is, and this is what makes the refereeing decision all that more sort of just heartbreaking and upsetting and angering and frustrating, is that we're not in that situation. We're not in that situation where we could have afforded to come out of this game and go, well, you know what, is what it is. I've seen some people say, City's a bit of a free hit, isn't it? Well, it's not a free hit, because we need to pick up points. We need to win as many games as we possibly can, and the reality is we haven't only been robbed of an opportunity to take points off the champions and a team that are leading the title race, but we've also been robbed of an opportunity to gain another point towards our fight for survival. Newcastle again picking up points. Burnley are playing now. I think Burnley might actually be winning at the moment. Somebody's just put a comment in saying we are currently in the relegation zone. Let's have a little look at the Premier League table. I don't know why it didn't come up. My computer's having a little bit of a slow one at the minute. We're currently 19th. Because Burnley are, well, it's 0-0 between Burnley and Leicester, so we need Leicester to win that game, so Burnley drop back down to 21 points, but we're both on 22 points, and we currently sit in the relegation zone with 14 games to go. And I know some people have said, yeah, we'll be alright though, because we'll win this game, we'll win that game, win the other game, and we'll be alright, but 13 games isn't a lot of games of football. 14 games isn't a lot of games of football, and let's not forget we've got some difficult games in there as well. Now, if we play like we did on Saturday against the majority of those 13 teams, 14 teams, I think we'll be okay, because I think we'll beat a lot of teams playing like that. But we've got to be able to channel that performance week in, week out, and but obviously change the result, preferably create a little bit more chances. And I know it's hard because Manchester City are a wonderful team and they've got a wonderful set of players, but we've got to create more. We've got to get in better areas. We've got to move the ball quicker, more fluid. But the effort, the desire, the commitment, and the ability to really sort of contain a side, as we did with Manchester City on Saturday, is what needs to be put into every game. And hopefully we won't get done out of many more this season. But that's what I was saying before about falling out of love with football and sort of just looking at it and thinking, what's the point anymore? And that's because of decisions like this. It really, really is because of decisions because you watch it and you go, what much more could Everton have done there? I mean, you know, we were already without our main striker, couple of players light through injury. We're playing the best team in the league. We're currently one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league. And we've worked hard, we've battled our arse off, we've fought, we've showed that desire, we've showed that commitment, we've showed that passion, we've showed that, you know, that aggression, and we deserved something out of that game. I don't even think you'll find a Manchester City fan who would say Everton didn't deserve anything out of that game. I think 99.9% of Manchester City fans would say that Everton deserved at least a point out of that game, and yet we were ripped away that opportunity. And it makes you think, had Richarlison had scored from that position, let's say he rounds Ederson and puts it in, they'd have probably given it offside, even though the Premier League confirmed to Frank Lampard after the game it wasn't offside, because that just seems to be where we are now with football. And it's sad. It's absolutely sad, because this system, VAR, and I don't like using the word VAR because these dickhead referees hide behind VAR. You know, when you've got people on social media, Twitter, Instagram and stuff saying, oh, VAR, what's the point in VAR, VAR this, VAR that. It's nothing to do with VAR. VAR is a computer. That's all VAR is. VAR is, it's called Video Assistant Referee. It's a computer. All as VAR does is play many replays to a human being that is watching the television, and that human being then makes the decision. So it's not VAR that needs scrapping, it's the fucking dickhead referees that are either on the pitch on the day or sat at Stockley Park in their bills eating crisp, pretending to watch the fucking replays when really they're just fucking playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or some shit. They're the dickheads that need getting rid of, not VAR. There's nothing wrong with VAR as a system. It works in rugby, it works in football in other countries in the world, it works in many other sports. It's worked, video assistance has worked in tennis, rugby, cricket for fucking years with no problem whatsoever. It's not VAR, it's the knobhead referees that are controlling VAR. You look at situations like Saturday and you think, whilst these dickhead referees are still in charge and still being allowed to make these corrupt, biased decisions, then what is going to change? And how are we as fans meant to get motivation from it? And I'm really, really glad that we now have a manager who isn't afraid to call it out. And Carlo was a little bit like this as well. Carlo Ancelotti was a little bit like this during his time at Everton. Not so much Rafael Benitez, but Carlo Ancelotti was a little bit like that, where he wasn't afraid to get in referees' faces. Actually got a sending off quite famously at Goodison Park for getting in Chris Kavanagh's faces, which is interesting. But I'm so glad we've now got a manager in Frank Lampard who isn't afraid to come out and say that's a disgrace. That's just a fella that can't do his job, because that's exactly what it is. And you know, the FA and the Premier League should listen to people like Frank Lampard, who have played the game and know the game well and understand that, you know, something's wrong here. Something is really, really wrong. Football is about opinions. Do you know what made me really, really sort of open my eyes to this situation is that I listen to TalkSport quite frequently, and I see some of their clips, and I like listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan on of a morning. And usually on TalkSport, you'll get people that'll come on and will argue both ways to the point. Whatever the point is, whether it be about a sending off, whether it be about a VAR, whether it be about a penalty, whether it be about a handball, whether it be about a goal, there will be somebody, no matter how blatant the situation is, there'll be somebody that will argue one side and somebody that will argue the other. And typically, one of those sides is biased or is bitter or whatever, and people will go, you don't know what you're talking about, you're chatting nonsense. Even on TalkSport over the last 3 or 4 days, I've not heard one person come out and say that's not a penalty. That's, you know, it's a fair challenge. Not one. I'm yet to hear or see anybody, whether it be in the media, whether it be football fans, whether it be pundits, whether it be television presenters, anybody come out and say, yeah, that's the right decision. And if that's an on-field decision, you look at it and you go, that's fine. People make mistakes. 2 minutes he spent looking at that. That's not a mistake. As Frank Lampard said, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's simply not. You can't make a mistake looking at something for 2 minutes. You can't. You simply can't. Chris Kavanagh needs to lose his job. As harsh as that might sound, he needs to lose his job. Because he's either made the mistake after looking at it for 2 minutes and therefore doesn't know how to do his job and should lose it in that sense, or he's done it through corruption and bias, where therefore he needs to lose his job in that sense. So there's no outcome of this where Chris Kavanagh gets any form of credibility. Apparently Leicester are winning, but this is saying it's our time and it's 0-0. I just don't get it. And as I said, it's these types of situations that make you sort of look at it. Do you know what my initial reaction was? Because I wasn't at the ground, and I know if I'd have been at the ground, I would have been fuming, I'd have been screaming, I'd have been shouting, I'd have been up in the arms, I would have probably lost my voice. But do you know what my initial reaction was when I seen it? Because I was going through my phone, and I actually didn't hear about the handball until about an hour or so after the game, because all I thought was we'd lost the game 1-0, we played really, really well, we give away a silly goal, you know, and from all accounts it was a great performance. It was about an hour after the game, I seen the handball, I seen the picture, I seen people talking about it, and I remember sitting in front of the campfire on Saturday, and I looked at my phone, and I sort of just went and put my phone down, because I thought, firstly, I'm not letting that ruin my night, but I thought, secondly, that's the norm, innit? No, that's the norm. You play against these teams, you play, you know, with these corrupt referees and these corrupt officials, and you know you're going to get decisions like that go against you. It's not, my point is, it's not surprising. It's not something you're looking at going, wow, that's a big decision, what an awful mistake that is by Chris Kavanagh. I look at it and go, these dickhead referees up to the usual 6 are they again? Because how many times has stuff like that happened against Everton over the years? Goals being disallowed, or penalties not being given, or offsides being given when they're not offside, or that's three penalties or 2 penalties in the last 2 games that we should have had. Blatant penalties. And I just, as I said, it's not even a surprise anymore, and that's what is really sort of making it difficult for me to carry on with this sport. I love Everton more than anything. I love Everton more than anything in the world, and I will follow Everton, whether they're a footballing team, whether they're a basketball team, or whether they decide to go and be a bricklaying company. I'll go to every fucking house in the country and watch Everton lay bricks, because I'm an Evertonian and I love this football club more than the world. But the reality is, I don't love football anymore. I don't, because of situations like this, where you look at it and you go, it's absolutely shite nowadays, absolutely shite. And yeah. But anyway, as I said, first half, you know, we were working hard, we were battling, we were performing, and we had a couple of chances, as I mentioned. John Joe Kenny having a chance, Richarlison having a chance that he probably should do better with, Anthony Gordon having a couple of opportunities. We also picked up a couple of silly yellow cards, and by silly yellow cards I mean yellow cards for challenges that should never have been yellow cards, but as we know, Chris Kavanagh liked to give yellow cards out for the sake of it. But on the most part, we went in at half time, and it was a really, really, really good half of football, arguably one of our best halves in recent weeks and months. We were containing Manchester City, we were keeping them to minimal chances on goal, and we ultimately were battling with them, fighting with them, working as hard as them, and making it really difficult. And that's something to be said. There's a lot of credit to be had in that, when you make it really difficult for a team like Manchester City to break you down and create, and especially when you do that with a centre-back partnership that we've all conceded in recent weeks aren't the ideal centre-back partnership. That just shows how well the players were playing. That just shows how hard they were working. As I said, Van der Beek, Alan, Decore, all brilliant, and it was a really solid, hard working first half of football, and that carried on in the second half. We will get into the live comments in a moment, by the way. That carried on in the second half. You know, the battle, the desire, the fight, you know, all was continuing. Manchester City started to get a little bit more of a grip of the game in the second half. I think they started to, all of a sudden, they were moving the ball a little bit more fluidly. They were working it more forward. They were getting a little bit more possession, and it went from Everton, I wouldn't say controlling the game, but certainly being in control of the momentum and the way the game was panning out to Manchester City really turning those tables. And usually when Man City do that, you're fearful because you're thinking, right, they've got 25 minutes, half an hour now to really turn the burners on. But we were still doing really, really well to contain them. We were still doing really, really well to keep them at bay. We were still doing really, really well to stop them from creating many chances. Although they were certainly picking it up a level. They were certainly taking it up a notch, and they were certainly, ultimately, I think, starting to control the game a little bit more. They had a couple of opportunities. They had a chance where I think De Bruyne cuts in on his right foot, takes a shot. Pickford makes an unbelievable save and then gets back up and makes an unbelievable save again. Jordan Pickford on Saturday, by the way, was exceptional. Absolutely exceptional. He was fantastic, and he has been for months now. In fact, he has been for years, really, let's be honest, Jordan Pickford. But it's games like Saturday that make you look at it and you go, do you know what? He was fabulous, and he is a fabulous goalkeeper. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. Don't give a shit what anybody says. Don't give a shit what you want to say about this or this mistake or that mistake. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. He's an absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. But City were knocking. They were knocking. And again, the goal we conceded is devastating, isn't it? Because you play that well, you perform that well, you work that hard, you battle that much. If you were to say to us before the start of the game, or say to me before the start of the game, Cam, this is how well you play, this is how the game pans out. You lose 1-0, but you were brilliant and you were hold Manchester City. How would you like to lose? Or what? I'd say like a 40-yard screamer from De Bruyne or an absolute whaley from somebody. The goal we conceded just adds salt to the wounds, doesn't it? Really, it's just like, it's like being kicked. It's like being shot in the head and then being kicked in the head, isn't it? It's like you're gonna lose, and not only are you gonna lose to an absolute calamity of a goal, and that's what it was. And as I said, I don't want to sit here and go too deep into the centre backs. We know the centre backs aren't good enough. We know if we'd have had, Yerry Mina there, and I don't even want to say Ben Godfrey because I don't think he's been particularly good this season. But we know if we'd have had a couple of solid, competent centre backs, that goal probably wouldn't have conspired. That goal probably wouldn't have happened. But the reality is, Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, they are what they are. We know what they are. They're not as, they're not going to one day wake up and magically be brilliant. Yerry Mina's not fit. Ben Godfrey's not fit. There's not much more that Frank Lampard can do. I know some people have called for Jared Branthwaite. I understand the shouts, but if I'm being honest with you, I don't think Jared Branthwaite would have done much difference in that situation either. And as I said, for the majority of the game, the pair being Holgate and Keane, were relatively solid. But the ball comes in again. We fail to stop the cross coming in, which is probably my biggest issue with the goal. Really, it's not even the Holgate touch or the Keane being glued to the floor. It's more the us again, once again, not stopping a cross coming into the box. I mean, how many times are we going to have to do this in games of football? Allow teams to put balls into the box, allow teams to put crosses into the box. It's becoming a joke now. It really, really is becoming a joke. Stop the cross coming in. It's as simple as that. Stop the cross coming in. But anyway, the cross comes in. Holgate sort of tries to deflect it, I think, away from whoever it was intended to. It ends up getting deflected onto Michael Keane. And Michael Keane is completely flat-footed because he's not expecting it. Again, ultimately, not ideal for your centre-half to be flat-footed, but he wasn't expecting it. And as I said before, in games like that and against teams like Manchester City, you can't afford to make those mistakes because players like Phil Foden will preempt that happening. Even though 9 times out of 10 that won't happen against most teams, players like Phil Foden and players that play for clubs like Manchester City, who are the top elite players, will preempt that happening because they know that 1 out of 10 chances something like that will happen and they'll get a goal from it. And that's exactly what happened. He preempted the mistake from Michael Keane. He got in behind and he basically knocked it round Pickford, didn't he? And Pickford was again, he was stuck, but by that point it was a goal, and we concede, and again, as I said, it was one of them where you're sort of looking, thinking, is that really how we're going to lose this game? We've played that well, we've battled that well, we've worked that hard, we've showed the commitment, we've showed the desire, we've showed the passion, the energy, we've given everything, we've deserved something out of this game, and we're really going to lose it via a goal like that. And it turns out that is how we lost it. It shouldn't have been how we lost it, or it certainly should have been. We should have been given an opportunity to rectify it, but it turns out that was why we lost it. And as I said, Everton then sort of woke up a little bit. They were pushing to try and get an equaliser. They were pushing to try and, get something out of the game as we deserved, and that was good to see from Frank Lampard and this Everton team, because there was a scenario where Everton could have dropped heads, and in that 8 minutes Manchester City could have scored another 3 or 4, but we didn't. We picked ourselves up and we demanded to get back into the game, and we did, and we won a penalty fair and square, and it wasn't given by the referee on the field because he didn't see it, which I've seen the replay. To be fair, Dele Alli, who'd come on at this point, was sort of in the way of Paul Tierney. I think Paul Tierney still should see it, but I understand why he didn't. But the VAR, as I said, is a disgrace. Anyway, let's get into some of the comments before we talk a little bit more about the penalty situation in itself. We won't be ranting about it for another half an hour because we've done that at the start of the live stream. Let's get into the comments. And if you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. John says, let's all pray for the people in Ukraine. Yes, spot on, mate. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that at the start of the video because I was involved in the emotion of the penalty situation. The start of the game, obviously, I'm sure you will all have seen now. If you're at Goodison Park, you will have witnessed it live. You're watching on the television, I'm sure you'll have seen it. Everton put on quite a heartwarming, a heartfelt, quite an emotional, devastating, I don't want to say tribute's probably not the right word, but show of support for the people of Ukraine and what's going on at the moment. Obviously, we had Vitaly Mykolenko, who was in the matchday squad on the bench. Obviously, from Ukraine and has got a lot of personal ties to the country. His family still live over there. His parents still live over there. And we can't even begin to imagine what he is going through at the moment. And then, of course, you had Alexander Zinchenko of Manchester City, again, very similarly Ukrainian, family live over there, parents live over there, and he was visibly in tears during the warm-up and certainly during the first sort of few minutes of the game. We saw the Everton players coming out with Ukrainian flags around them, including Mykolenko, and we saw the Manchester City players come out with, I think, a t-shirt with Stop the War and Ukrainian's flag or something along those lines. We saw Mykolenko and Zinchenko go over to each other in the warm-up and give each other a big hug. I think Zinchenko got a massive round of applause from the entirety of Goodison Park, and it was just really, really emotional, and it made me proud. It made me proud of the football club. It made me proud of made me proud of Everton and the players for doing that, and the manager as well, and obviously the football club for showing that solidarity, as well as Manchester City and their fans obviously in doing the same. And I actually had a comment on the preview, I think it was, or it might be in the instant match reaction, one of the videos about the Ukrainian's government and why people shouldn't support Ukrainian's government and this, that and the other, and their ties with certain political parties from the 1940s and stuff like that. And I just want to say, by the way, things like Saturday and people saying, supporting Ukraine and this, that and the other, it's got nothing to do, well, certainly very little to do with the Ukrainian government. What this has to do with is the poor innocent people of Ukraine who are having their lives ripped apart in front of our very eyes because of another country who have decided to declare war effectively. For what reason? Nothing to do with the government. The war might be over the government, and some people might say, oh yeah, but the Ukrainian government, this Ukrainian government, that. I don't know much about the Ukrainian or the Russian government. What I know is that innocent people are losing their lives, and that innocent people are losing their homes, their families, their parents, their grandparents. And what I also know is there is 2 extremely young footballers in their 20s who have come from that country and are now living and working in a completely new environment, a completely new country, without their mum and dad, without their family members, without their cousins, their friends from home, without their home, without their livelihood, what they know. They've left all of that behind, and that is now in danger of being gone forever, dependent on what happens over the next couple of weeks or so. Can you imagine the position that Alexander Zinchenko and Vitaly Mykolenko are in at the moment? For them to even make the matchday squad on Saturday was massive, because if it was me, I'd have said to Pep Guardiola or Frank Lampard, not going to lie, fellas, I'm not asked about the game on Saturday. What I'm asked about is making sure my mum and dad are alright and my family are alright. So forget what government does what or what government stands for what. Innocent people are dying here. Innocent people are losing their lives, losing their livelihoods. It's the same as if we went to war and somebody from the other, another country in the world said, oh yeah, but don't feel sorry for them because look at the Tory government and this, that, the other. The Tory government doesn't represent me. I hate a lot of them. I absolutely despised a lot of them. But if we went to war, it'd be us, the people, the general, civilians, innocent people of the country that would be being attacked, that would be having our homes destroyed, our livelihoods ripped apart, our families murdered, and this, that, and the other. Nothing to do with the Tory government. It would just be the people that are involved in the inciting or whatever. It would be us, the people that are being affected by it. Exactly the way it's the Ukrainian people who are innocent people who've done nothing wrong being affected by this. Exactly in the sense that Vitaly Mykolenko and Alexander Zinchenko are normal people who've done nothing wrong who are being affected by this. That is who, for the government, that was what the Goodison sort of support was for on Saturday. That is what everybody on social media saying, we support Ukraine and wearing Ukrainian tops or getting behind Ukraine and backing Ukraine. It's because innocent people are losing their lives. Forget government or what government says what or what government does what or what government's done in what government done what in the 40s or who they liked in the 50s or what they said in the 60s. Forget the governments. Innocent people are losing their lives. Innocent people that have done nothing wrong are losing their homes, their jobs, their family members, their way of life because of the actions of people that are above them, that are not even the Ukrainian. It's not even the Ukrainian government that have instigated this. It's the Russian government. But forget the politics behind it. Not asked about the politics of war. The reality of war is that innocent people are dying for no good reason. And it's not an excuse, and we need to stop this conflict and we need to stop this war. And I'm not going to get too far into it because I know that it's a political issue and I don't do politics, and as I said, I'm not going to go to, but I just wanted to address that. I seen somebody saying, oh, why are we this Ukraine? The Ukrainian government did this and the Ukrainian government did that. The reality is there was two young men who were present at Goodison Park to do their jobs on Saturday who don't know whether or not they'll see their mum and dad again. And as harsh as that may be and as sad as that may be, that's the reality of the situation. Vitaly Mykolenko and Alexander Zinchenko don't know whether they'll be able to visit their hometown, the home they grew up in, their mum and dad, their grandparents, their friends ever again because of what's going on. And that's why Everton did what they did on Saturday, and that's why it was so heartwarming, that's why it was so great to see, that's why it was so upsetting, and that's why we need to show as much support as we can for this situation. And that's that on that situation. Yeah, there you go. Terry says, Cam, it was the same boxing with boxing the other day. The Josh Taylor Jack Catterall fight, one of the worst decisions. Catterall was robbed. Yeah, I've seen it. Absolutely. This is going on in all the sport, but we know there's been corruption in boxing for years, and it's the same in football. Judy says Ukrainian government did absolutely nothing to provoke. They didn't. But I'm just saying this comment wasn't necessarily about the now. It was about the Ukrainian government a while ago, and I couldn't be asked writing a reply to it, so I thought I'd address it now. Forget what happened a while ago, and even if the Ukrainian government were the instigators now, that isn't my point. My point is innocent people are losing their lives for no good reason, and that's why we get that. That's why behind it. And also, by the way, I do just have to mention as well, it's important that. Again, I'm going to get political here. I feel like I'm on BBC fucking news. It's important that we realise that that not every Russian national footballer or member of the public is for this as well. I seen something the other day, and it was during the protest in St. Petersburg, and it was a Russian. I can only assume a Russian person holding up a banner, which holding up a piece of cardboard with writing on it, which the writing is read, "I'm Russian, I'm so sorry." Now that's just an innocent Russian person who didn't want this, doesn't want this, but feels like he needs to take responsibility for the actions of his president or prime minister or whatever Putin is. Now, how heartbreaking is that there will be people, there'll be Russian people around the world who will be blamed and targeted for this, when actually they don't want this either. It's got nothing to do with them. They're just innocent in this situation, and they're at risk of losing the same, things that we've just mentioned. So it's not just that it is innocent people here that will be affected. And this is the world, isn't it? We live in it, basically. The decisions of the dickheads that sit above and the rich knobheads that think they can do what they want never affects them. It always affects the working class innocent people below them. So they don't ever see the consequences, because the consequences fall on the innocent people. And that's what has happened in this world for centuries and centuries. But yeah, well said. Cam says, Philip, great point about the Ukrainian tribute by Everton and Man City. It was a support of our Ukrainian lad and the innocent people. Not, yeah, exactly. I know obviously there's been a few stuff with Alex Sharuznov. We're not going to get into that in this video, but I know that there's been a couple of things with him. Yeah. 7-0 is better. I'll get some of that. I think we're talking about Thursday there. Cam's rants are boss, to be fair, says Semi. Thank you, mate. Thank you. I don't want to do them though, because hopefully I'll never have to rant again. But again, this rant wasn't so much anti-Everton. It was about the referee. Had money on the match. Kevin is my 30. Take VAR out, then you don't need humans behind the machines. Job's done. Well, just get decent, non-biased, non-corrupt officials to do the job. It's as simple as that. Eugene thinks Richarlison will score a hat-trick on Thursday against Boreham Wood. Let's hope so. After we smash Boreham Wood. Anthony says both our best chances. If our players had more composure, they would have squared balls for clear goals, although lads played well, just robbed of at least the points. Shane Keane got struck foot. Yeah. Kevin says whatever we say, Everton have to pick themselves up and play our games to get points and move up the table. Spot on. How long is Delph out for? I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't really know. Yeah, people saying VAR is not the problem, it's the people behind it. Absolutely VAR isn't the problem. It is the people behind it. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a massive amount to me. But yeah, as I said, we conceded, and you were sort of thinking, right, is that ultimately going to be the goal that loses us this game of football, that we don't deserve to lose? And then we go and get, we have the penalty situation. And again, I'm not going to sit and do too much more ranting on it, because we have just sat for practically an hour and ranted about it. But the ball's bouncing. It's bouncing awkwardly back towards, I think Richarlison takes the shot. It's bouncing awkwardly back towards sort of, our players. And Rodzi does that. Rodzi's hands are by his side. He realises he's not in control of the ball. He does that. That movement alone, by the way, should be enough to give a penalty. Forget where it touches him. Forget whether it touches him here or here. Here being me forearm. Going from that to do that, and then the ball striking any of this, should be a penalty, because you are controlling the ball with your arm. It's a handball. But it doesn't just hit his arm, does it? It hits him here, below the sleeve, on the forearm. It's the most blatant handball. The only more blatant handball you could get was if he picked the ball up and walked away with it, and he probably still wouldn't have given a fucking penalty. He'd look for an excuse to not give that either. It is the most blatant handball you will ever see. And as we've just said, Chris Kavanagh, the fourth official, decides to not give it because he's a knobhead, he's biased, he's corrupt, and he effectively is not going to be punished for it. He doesn't give it. The game plays out. We lose 1-0. And as I said, the Everton players leave Goodison Park to a standing ovation. And, as I said before, it's not bittersweet, because there's nothing sweet in a defeat. Pardon my what was it I was looking for? Pardon my unnecessary use of hip hop rhyme there. There's nothing sweet in a defeat. But there's nothing. It's not bittersweet, because there's nothing sweet. There's nothing good about losing a game of football. But there's certainly an understanding from me, and I think a lot of Evertonians, I think a lot of people watching this, that we played well, we worked hard, we battled, we weren't amazing, let's not get it wrong, it wasn't like we were absolutely amazing, but against a really, really good Manchester City team, there was battle, there was fight, there was desire, there was a lot of commitment, and ultimately we deserved more out of that game. And if we'd have lost the game on the basis of the goal that we'd have lost without the penalty decision, then you'd look at it and go, we deserved more out the game, but we give away a silly goal. That's what happens against these teams. You move on. But the penalty decision really does make you think that not only should we deserve more out that game, but we should have been given the opportunity to get more out that game with a penalty, and we weren't, because of a corrupt, biased official. And that is what really sticks in the back of your throat. But ultimately for Everton now, we've got to use that performance as a catalyst to firstly go and get a result on Thursday against Boreham Wood, which will be a difficult game, despite it looking like not particularly a difficult game. It will be a difficult game. And then ultimately on the weekend, on Monday night against Spurs, which is a massive game, an absolute massive game, a game that we simply have to win. We simply have to win, and if we're not going to win, we need to get a point out of at least. We can't keep losing games, especially given the way we lost the last one. Hernandez says, and at the end of the day, if we play like that week in, week out, we won't lose too many games. The in the midfield is much after such a great play. Yeah, the in the midfield. You know, as I said, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Alan and Donny van der Beek were fantastic on Saturday, and I doubt we'll see. Well, we won't see the three of them on Thursday because Donny van der Beek is cup tied, but I doubt we'll see Alan on Thursday either. Might see Doucouré to get some minutes in his tank, get some fitness up. But I think if we can get the three of them fit and ready for Spurs, then again we'll have a much better chance against that Spurs team. And if we can play like we did against Manchester City, then I actually think we'll get something out of Spurs. I really do, and hopefully we won't get absolutely shafted by a referee, which is exactly what happened on Saturday. But other than that, it was a proud performance. The 11 metres says how confident are the Toffees about facing the Magpies flying high. I'm actually quite confident because it's at Goodison. I'm actually quite confident. EFC Graphic says in relegation as we speak we are. Let's hope Leicester can pull something out over the next 20 minutes or so. But that's the reality of the game. It was a hard working, hard battling performance with a lot of desire, with a lot of commitment, that unfortunately didn't go our way because of a disgraceful decision by a referee, which how many times have we said that sentence in the past? But we've just got to dust ourselves off, pick ourselves up, and take the positives from that game, because there was a lot of positives, and I'm sure that Frank Lampard will be doing that, and I'm sure that will be the message from Frank Lampard ahead of Thursday, and then obviously ahead of Monday night, which is an absolutely massive game of football. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but it's certainly, if you're going to lose a game, then that is the way to lose it, by showing that fight, by showing that desire, and by putting the hard work in and putting the commitment in. But the reality is, it's not as easy to let go as saying, "Oh, we lost to a really good team and we worked hard, so just move on." Because as people are saying in the comments, and as we can see as of now, at 3 minutes past 9 on the 1st of March, we're in the relegation zone, which is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But there you go. Look, if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. I am going to leave it there. We will be back tomorrow with the live game preview to Everton's FA Cup fixture against Boreham Wood on Thursday. So join us tomorrow evening for that one. We'll give our predicted starting 11 and all of that good stuff as well. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. I really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this video and you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. Yeah. Massive thank you to everybody for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a massive amount to me. As I said, big thanks to Kieran for covering the instant match reaction and the play ratings on Saturday. That does mean a massive amount to me. And yeah, we dust ourselves off and we move on, I suppose. There's not much more we can do, is there? But big thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new as well. Cheers all, says Philip. We'll be fine. Let's hope so. Yeah. We'll wait and see, I suppose. Let's see what happens. Big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.